don't matter what your name is, share your story, we'll be waiting. Yeah. For the haters, whoa.
Welcome back, everyone, to For The Hayters podcast. Today, we're joined by Misty, a devoted mother, full-time caregiver, and a woman who carries both love and grief every single day. Misty's 7-year-old son lives with IQSEC2, a rare, severely debilitating genetic disorder that has left him nonverbal and fully dependent. In this conversation, Misty will open up about what it means to live in a world where milestones don't come and caregiving never stops. This episode is about the invisible grief, mothering without a roadmap, and the strength it takes to hold life that looks nothing like what you imagined. Let's get into it. Misty, welcome to For The Hayters.
Thank you so much for having me.
I would love to start out by just, who is Misty? Who was Misty before becoming a mother? Tell me all the things about you.
All right. I became a mom with my oldest child. He's 18. They're really, I don't even remember life before being a mom, really.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I ever wanted to do. That was my dream from a little girl. I just wanted to be a mom. So my oldest is 18, and then I have a 12-year-old, and then I have Jackson, who is my baby. And my oldest two are from a previous marriage. So this was my husband's first child. So it was not what we expected, but we were excited anyway. So we were not really prepared, but we were excited to welcome him into our family. So,
and everything leading up before, like, was there anything that would have, like, did you know, like, was your pregnancy normal? Like, was everything in your pregnancy as expected?
Everything was normal. That's what was probably the most shocking to us, was everything was normal. It was just like with the other two boys. There was no complications. There was no, everything, all the testing was normal. We had like the big genetic test done, and they're like, he's perfect. He's growing perfectly. Everything is perfect. So we had no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah. And can you just walk us through how does that diagnosis come about?
Well, we really didn't notice anything early on. He was never a good sleeper. That was probably my biggest concern, but some kids are just not. And he just didn't, it wasn't the same. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it wasn't, I think deep down I knew it wasn't the same. I had a little bit of postpartum and very overwhelmed with him. And so I think I missed that the milestones weren't happening like they should have. And so we really just kind of noticed that, and we finally we got us a really good pediatrician, and she told me, she said, he's very delayed. And so I was like, well, okay, and she said, we'll get him in therapy. We did speech, OT, all the things. And she was concerned about his vision. She said, he's not tracking. He's not holding a gaze. She said, I think that he may have some vision problems. So she kind of sent us to an eye doctor. We had an MRI with him just to make sure that everything in the brain was normal. Everything was normal, which I think that maybe should have been a red flag that they wanted to do an MRI. But everything came back normal, and, they diagnosed him with, it's called cortical visual impairment, which is really where you may not have any peripheral vision. You can't hold gaze. Everything is like something can move by and you don't notice it till after it's already moved by. So we thought, well, maybe that's why he's delayed, because he can't see well. So then we somehow got to neurology, and they wanted to do an EEG and just make sure his brain activity was normal. And everything was fine. They said, so we were like, okay, this is just a vision problem. We're delayed. Everything is going to be fine. And we took him home, and probably 2 days later, he started having what we now know as seizures, but we didn't know, because he would just like freeze, and it just seemed odd. And then he almost got stuck doing that. And I made a video and sent it to the neurologist, and I said, this something not right here. And they said, bring him in. And we went up there, just thought we were going to an office visit. They admitted us to the hospital and hooked him up to EEG. And within 5 minutes, he said he's having seizures. And we've got to figure out why, and we've got to start medication immediately. When we got to the hospital, he was having about 80 or 90 seizures a day. Some of them we could not see, some of them we could see. And they did tests, blood tests, labs, everything, called in specialists, could not get seizures under control, could not figure it out. Finally, we resulted to doing a spinal tap, which was very scary because they came in and said he may have meningitis. So, of course, you start Googling, well, what does that mean? Why? How? What is the prognosis? What are we dealing with? I mean, they were calling specialists all over the world because they could not figure out what was going on. And they said, we don't have any answers. We've tried, we had tried probably 9 different epilepsy medications at that point. They were helping a little bit, but everything was making him like super groggy, or he wouldn't eat, so we were just like, and I told myself, I'm not taking him home till you can tell me something. And they said, there's no answer. They said, just go home. We're going to run some genetic tests. And once we get those back, we can figure out a plan, a course of action. So, and this was in March of 2020. So the whole world was shut down with COVID. They shut the hospital down while we were there. Our kids couldn't come see us. So they sent us home, middle of COVID. We have no groceries. We have nothing. We're just a baby that's on this medication, and we're just lost.
How
And the
old
doc,
was he at this point?
he was about 17 or 18 months old.
Okay.
So we had been in therapy for probably about 6 or 7 months at that point. And then we got him home, and we were just like, okay. And they called us probably about 2 weeks later. And the doctor said, he has IQSEC2. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And he's like, I don't know. It was like so rare. He said, I don't know. You're going to have to find a genetic doctor to try to inform you about this.
That would be frustrating, right?
Yeah.
Like having that conversation and finally getting an answer, but then being met with no answers to that answer.
Yeah.
How did they find that out? Is it something that can be tested? Like, is it something that comes back on?
It'd come back on his genetic report. This was a epilepsy panel is what this was. And they came up and he had actually 2 things showed up, but one was insignificant and one was pathogenic. So, of course, I get on Google and try to find out anything I can. And everything that it said, he pretty much had. So I was like, okay, maybe this is it. So they sent us to genetics. And the genetic doctor looked at me and he said, I don't know what to tell you. He said, this is so rare, I can't even find any information. So we're like, okay. And he gave me the printout that I took off Google. So I was
down.
Yeah. I said, well, okay, I already knew that, but okay. And I said, well, what is the prognosis for this? What is our outcome? And he said, the sky's the limit. I said, okay. That was it.
Yeah. So, do you leave the doctors and have to find your own specialist? Do you have to find your own answers for?
Pretty much.
Because at that point, you don't even know what to expect from it.
Yeah.
Is he going to die? Is he going to live?
Yep.
There are so many unanswered questions.
That was pretty much really the main thing that I found was a support group on Facebook. There was very few members, but I thought, okay, I'll go on there and I can read what other people's children are doing, where they're at, and if they're teenagers or if they're, one of the oldest people in the group was in their 20s. And that was pretty much it. And so we ended up finding a neurologist, and he had a little bit more info, but it's sort of we just put the pieces together as it came out, as research has been done.
So with the diagnosis, is there medicine that helps with the seizures? Is there something?
Well, we're on 2 medications right now. We have them mildly under control. It causes a rare form of epilepsy that is drug resistant.
Okay.
So there's really the doctor told us, in the beginning we thought, well, maybe he'll grow out of seizures, because some people grow out of seizures. He said with the type of epilepsy he has, he's not going to go away. We may have spans where things are better, but they're never going to go away.
So when does it register to you, the severity of this diagnosis? Is there still like hope when you first find out?
Oh, yeah. There was a lot in the beginning. There was a lot of hope. The first thing I thought is, okay, we're going to beat this. We're going to be we're going to defy the odds. We're going to learn to talk. We're going to learn to walk. We're going to learn some skills. This is not going to be our story. That was my first thought. I thought, this is not going to be his story.
Yeah.
And so, we jumped into every kind of therapy. We went to any doctor we could find. We were trying everything. And, I think as the more information came out and the older he's gotten, it's sort of set in that that's not going to happen.
And what's your son's name?
Jackson.
So Jackson is 6 now, correct?
He just turned 7.
Okay, so just turned 7.
Mm-hmm.
18 months is when he got diagnosed around that time. So he's not walking yet at 18 months.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of different experience, and especially I have already previously been being a mom. It wasn't like it was your first time experience, but like you said, it was your husband's.
Yeah.
How does your husband like respond to all of this as well? Is he asking for questions? Is he kind of taking a back seat to letting you drive?
He was very, he's like, well, what should he be doing? What should we expect? And I think that he held out a lot of hope that, things were maybe not as bad as we thought. Because when you go in there and you read these things, it sounds really bad. I mean, the first thing that I read was...
It is really bad.
It is really bad. And like the first thing I read was severe intellectual disability. Because like I say, at that time, it wasn't time for him to talk. It wasn't time for him to walk. It wasn't, we knew that he didn't reach for things. He would smile when you talked to him, but it was not like he wasn't babbling. He wasn't, but you just think, well, he's little. He's little. And so, as those things didn't come, I think it really, like I say, it started to set in for both of us that this is going to be really hard.
Yeah. And do you guys have conversations? Like, do you have open and honest conversations between each other that, that you each know what you're going through or you're speaking through it?
In the beginning, we did not.
Mm-hmm.
He was, I would get really upset and he would always try to, well, it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay. And it is okay. But, I think I walk with my grief more present and he holds it all inside. And he'll say, I have to be strong because I know you fall apart. And he said, I want to be strong so I can be here for you. And then it's like, sometimes he will break down. He'll say, this is, it gets me too.
Yeah.
And I think that just because of the caregiver role, it's a little bit more, I deal with it daily.
Yeah, absolutely. What does that day look like? Can you take us through, now what a typical day looks like as a full-time caregiver?
It's hard in a lot of ways. And it's still like, he's still like our baby. I mean, even though he's 7, he's still just our baby. So, I get him up and, hopefully we can start our day without a bad seizure. If we have a bad seizure, then it usually wipes him out could be a couple of hours. Hopefully we make it through breakfast. Sometimes we don't. Then dressing. And then I have to feed him. He doesn't have a tube, but that's in the talks because with their genetic condition, they don't gain weight.
Yeah.
And we've got so many diagnoses that fall under the IQSEC. He has an esophagus, it's called EOE, and he has trigger foods that inflame his esophagus and make him sick. Our trigger food is dairy, so he can't have any dairy. Okay. So planning out his meals for the day is probably one of the most stressful things that I have to deal with is, what can I feed him? What did he eat yesterday? I hate to feed him the same thing, but the options are very limited. He's on a formula. He's on like these little protein shakes that everything has to be non-dairy. So all that stuff has to go through insurance and it's That's very difficult. And so, we have diapering, medicine twice a day, multiple medications. We have therapy on Mondays. And so we get ready and go to that. Sometimes he's able to do it. And some days we have seizures on the way there. And we just have to turn around and come back. Because once he has a bad seizure, which his seizures have changed, these seizures he's having lately are more severe. They're more like convulsion seizures, and they really just wipe him out. So if he has a bad day, he sleeps most of the day. If he has a good day, he's very happy. He can get in. He's got like a walker, and he can kind of get around, and he's just so full of energy. But those days are fewer than the bad days.
And so from a capacity of I think when we first talked, you said mentally he's almost as if he is 6 months old, right? Yep. He's 7 years old, but from a mental capacity,
yes,
it's as if he's 6 months. How do you process the grief of the life that you imagined, right? While also trying to love and be present for your other kids at the same time?
That's probably the hardest part of the journey because try not to cry. The grief comes in waves. And it's like we're doing really good. And like if he's really good and having good days, like it's not so bad. But then it's like it builds. Like these little waves come and I'm like, oh, well, I'm sad, but I'm like, okay. But then we go to like a birthday party or it's Christmas or, we watch kids playing at the beach. And it's just like this wave of grief hits. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like I see the life that I thought he would have flash before my eyes. Like I can see him running and playing and going hunting with his daddy and just being a little boy. And those things are not possible. And you try to just not think about that, but you can't help it. You can't. And like I say, that's the worst thing is when that wave crashes. It's just, that's all I see is what's not. And I have to we've got nephews that are around the same age. And it's like, it's just, you just sometimes, it's a constant reminder. There's no way to describe grieving somebody that's still here. And it's just like, it's just this reoccurring grief that it can't go away because I still have him, but it's not what we thought. You can't help but think about what you dreamed of. I mean, everybody dreams about what their kids are going to be like. Of course. I mean, you experience it now. You think about, whose personality will they have? What will be their favorite color? What will be their first word? I've never even heard my son speak. I mean, that is a feeling that I cannot describe if I had to. I mean, there's no way to, and then not being able to communicate with him. I don't know what's wrong. I mean, there's times that he cries. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know if he's hurting, if he's just upset, if he just needs to be held, if he feels a seizure. I don't know. And that's the worst feeling is not being able to help. And so, but then you have to say, well, we do have him and he's healthy. I mean, for the most part, besides for these big things. So we're thankful for the good. And then my other boys are healthy. I mean, we're so thankful for that, but it's like, there's no way to not feel that. And people will tell me, well, don't think so far ahead. And it's like, I can't help that. This is our dream. And we live with him. We have to think about that.
Yeah. What does that relationship look like with him and his other siblings?
That is probably the most beautiful part of this journey for me is watching them. Like I say, my oldest is 18, so he's kind of living his own life now, but he'll come in and scoop him up and talk to him and, give him a kiss. And then my 12-year-old, he's my saving grace. He is my helper. He'll watch him and let me go for a walk in the afternoon and he'll say, well, just, if you need to do something, just bring him to my room. And he's very loving too. And that is the most beautiful part of this is watching him grow up with him and the love and the compassion that they have developed and even my husband, watching him be so soft with him is so, I mean, that's one of the most beautiful parts of the journey to me.
Yeah. Do you feel like those kind of like moments of connection and of that joy is like you kind of just like bottle up those moments
Oh, yeah.
and hold on to them?
Absolutely. That's what I mean, when he's having a good day, he'll get in his little gait trainer walker and he'll walk around and he'll just bust out belly laughing for no reason. And it's just the sound of him laughing. It's like it takes all of that away. And you're like, okay, this is, and if he could just have those good days, but like I say, we have these days of seizures and it's like he's not even here. I mean, it's just, he just has to sleep and he doesn't make any noise and he just lays there. And it's like, those are the days that when we have those, like day after day after day, that feeling of grief, I could feel it building. And then it's just like, sometimes he looks up at me with these little eyes, like he's just like, I don't know, it's the most helpless feeling for him to look up at me and I can't do anything.
What do you feel like is most misunderstood, like from your friends or your family that aren't living your day-to-day life?
I don't think that people realize how hard just the smallest things. I mean, it's just like people invite us to do things. Well, you don't understand. He's got this big wheelchair. Is there wheelchair access?
Mhm.
Is it going to be super crowded because his immune system is compromised? So we can't go, we don't like to go where there's a lot of crowds, or especially when it's sickness season. And so I don't think that people understand that. I think that people don't understand that we're not sad all the time. I mean, there is a lot of joy. We are thankful for him. I mean, I tell him every night, I'm so glad I got to be your mom. And, I think that people they don't see the good and the bad. They just see this. I feel like sometimes people pity us. I don't want anybody to pity us. We're happy. We have a good life. We do better when we're at home and our routine. And I think it becomes more apparent when we're in a different environment, in a different situation. And probably people don't understand that just because he's nonverbal doesn't mean that you don't have to acknowledge him or speak to him, or we'll come in a room and it's just like we're not even, or he's not even there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, he deserves the most attention in the room. I mean, because he can't come to those people. He has, you have to come to him. And I mean, even doctors will come in the room and they're just like, well, hey, how's he been? I'm like, well, he's not going to answer you, but you can ask him. I mean, it just, because it just almost makes it feel like, well, he's just not important. I mean, and he is important. And I think that people don't realize that. And that is, and they don't realize how hard that it is for us to, try not to be sad. I mean, we try not to be sad. I try not to be sad. And sometimes I leave events and I can't even make it to the car without crying. And it's not anybody's fault. It's just, it's very emotional and it's very deep.
You feel like you have support from people around you? Like, do you have friends in your corner or family in your corner outside of, obviously your core of your other kids and husband?
Yeah, I think that we do have a lot of support. I think that, I mean, we have people who would drop anything if we needed. I mean, just like when we were in the hospital with him. I mean, my mom had to keep my kids. My in-laws were coming to visit and bring food, and we have a lot of support. And I think that people just don't know sometimes how to support.
Yeah.
And I don't really know that there's an answer. Sometimes I don't know what I need. And this is what I told my husband last night. It's like, sometimes people say, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do this every day. Well, instead say, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I'm doing what any mom would do.
Yeah, it's not
I mean,
a choice. I mean,
yeah, I don't have a choice.
you have a choice, but like,
Yeah, I mean, there's no, like I say, any good parent is going to jump in and take over and do everything they can for their child. So, I mean, it's not like I'm a superhero. I'm just loving and taking care of him the best that I can. So that's probably some of the things that.
yeah. What does it look like for you? What does your self-care look like? How do you keep, you're constantly on like an edge, right? Like
Yeah.
any moment there's that going to be that tipping point. So what do you do to care for yourself and your own mental health?
I think that just the first thing was just allowing myself to feel those feelings. I think for a long time, I was like, I've got to be strong. I don't have a choice. I've got to do this. I've got to just move on. And I think just taking time to feel those things, I have been more open with my husband when I feel those things. Sometimes I would just cry and nobody would know. But I try to, and even my son, I'll talk to him and just, he's like, it's okay. You can talk to me, I do go for walks every day just to clear my mind. I listen to podcasts. Um, Music is a big help. A lot of motivational things and touching base with people who are in the same boat, just reading things that how they're doing it, how they are in their journey, what they've done, words of encouragement, journaling that really, in the beginning, that really helped. And I go back now and read those things and I'm like, that person was really hurting at that time.
Yeah.
And I've healed a lot since then with, just feeling those things and trying to stay connected to the reality of it and, that it's okay to feel those things.
Yeah, it's really heavy, right? Like there's so many choices that you have to make
Yep.
to get through to the next step, right? If you stay in grief in the initial grief of, oh, I can't believe this is going to be my life forever. If you stay in that sorrow, then it just will snowball into the big
Oh, yeah.
like ball of grief. So it's with such a hard situation, it is quite beautiful to hear you speak about the good parts that come from it because I'm not, I would say that I'm also someone that like sees someone in your situation and I feel like sorrow and sadness and I
Yep.
feel that
Oh, yeah.
not like, I don't want to say pity because that's not the feeling,
Yeah.
but like could I do this? Could I like live that life?
Yeah.
So there's just like a lot of emotions and a lot of thought. And I think that there's a lot to learn from how you spoke to that, right? Like, it's like, just let me know I'm doing a good job. And
Yeah.
you didn't need to tell me you couldn't do this because like
Yeah.
it doesn't help my situation.
No,
Like it's
no.
your own pain. That's your own thoughts that you need to deal with. That's not
Yeah.
representative of me.
Yeah, and that's what, and I read something the other day and it said, it's a chronic sorrow. It is a continuous reoccurring grief with no death. I mean, it reoccurs every day and there is a lot of sorrow.
Yeah.
And, and it's something that, like I say, you can't even imagine how it hits and how hard it is, but like I say, there is beauty in it. There is, we do feel very blessed because he has changed our lives. I mean, he changed the way we view things. I mean, he definitely changed the way I look at things and my perspective on things and how I love my other kids. It's like, when they ask me to do something, I try to make sure I do it because I know I'll never get that with Jackson.
Yeah. How do you take caregiving? Sorry, I'm trying to
No, it's okay.
there's so much
Yeah.
behind the act of being a caregiver, right? And so how do you accept that for the foreseeable future? I'm not sure if there's a life expectancy with this illness or what that looks like, but you're going to be a caregiver then for the foreseeable future. Is that something that you have to kind of accept and move forward with, or is it just an everyday process of living?
I think it's an everyday process in some ways. I think that caregiving is not hard for me, in just the daily physical things that I do for him. I mean, he's, feeding him, all of those things is not, it's more the bigger picture of doctor's appointments, medication. Did I order his medicine? Is it time to order something? Do I have diapers? Did we get the formula? Fighting with insurance. That is the
Yeah. And
That
that's
is
going
the
to be my next
biggest.
question, right? What it is so unfortunate that someone's quality of care will rely on if they have access, if they have insurance, if they have financial means to do that.
Yeah.
Is that a burden that you feel are you in a position where it's not present, where we're not getting him the best care? Do you feel like you're not getting him the best care because of the insurance that you have?
Well, we are very fortunate that he qualifies for Medicaid. So we have our primary insurance and then he qualifies for Medicaid. But it is a very difficult process because we have to go through 2 insurances. And they'll tell, in our primary, if they deny it a certain way, the secondary can't pick it up. It's just like we needed a bath seat because when he has seizures, he'll fall in the water. So we needed a bath seat with a 5-point harness. The doctor wrote the letter of medical necessity, sent it to insurance. They said, giving him a bath is a luxury. You don't need that. And I said, okay, it's a luxury to need to strap my son in a seat when I think he was like 5 at the time, to give him a bath. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? They're like, well, just wipe him off. And I'm like, it's just, and things like that are so infuriating because it's like nobody wants to ask for a wheelchair for their 7-year-old. Nobody wants formula for their 7-year-old. Nobody wants a high chair that because he's outgrown a baby high chair. I mean, it's like they make out like, well, we're just trying to get something from the system. I don't want those things.
Yeah.
I don't want diapers.
Like,
I don't
not trying to cheat the system to be.
Yeah, that's what they're like. Well, you're trying to pull something over on us.
Yeah.
And I mean, the doctor wrote you a letter saying that he has this medical diagnosis. It shouldn't be that complicated. And I mean, and then some of those things like the doctor, we were trying to get a camera that monitors him at night for seizures. And, the letter that the doctor wrote was that he is at risk for sudden death because of epilepsy. I mean, I have to read those things. And it's like, how do you process something like that?
And
I mean, how do you...
like something that could save his life, you're being denied because...
Yeah, and it's like, well, we may have to fight with insurance over this. And I'm like, there's nothing to fight about. We need these. And the bad thing is that because it is special needs, it's triple the price.
Yeah. Did you feel like how were you able, and this might help someone listening, because that first step into navigating our system is really overwhelming and really frustrating, right? There's we have resources that help you explain, like, where do you even start, right? So did you have people around you that knew how to do this, or is this something that you just had to like pick up and learn?
We pretty much you just get thrown out there. I mean, it's just... Probably the therapists, our physical therapists, they probably helped us more than anything because they deal with children with all kinds of medical needs. And so, they would kind of get me in contact with a mom or with a foundation or different things like that. And a lot of it was just researching it myself because it's like, and that's what I would tell them. I said, just tell me who to talk to. And it's like insurance would deny us things. And they're like, well, you need to find a company that makes this formula. And I'm like, how do I do that? And they're like, well, I guess just Google it. And so I get on there and I'm like, okay, well, who makes this formula? And then I called all over the United States trying to find somebody that had this formula. And it was like, this is hard enough. I shouldn't have to be figuring out how to get things that he needs.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Even from the beginning, right? Even from the beginning of his diagnosis and your journey it was always just met with not clear answers.
Yeah, it's always been just figure it out. And that's what, that's what's so frustrating is it's like you feel very alone because there's nobody can help.
Yeah.
And it's just,
I hope that I do hope that you find moments of recognition and like that you're proud of yourself because the quality of your son's life is so much better because of you and not because of literally no one else besides yourself. And there's unfortunately kids that will be born into situations where they don't have that support or they don't.
Oh yeah.
People that and it's not even sometimes it's not even about the care, it's just like survival. Like some people just don't have the ability to do the things that you're doing. So I do hope that you recognize where you're at is because of you. How do you feel? Do you feel like you find different senses of purpose now, right? Like, do you feel like there are different parts of life that used to matter that no longer matter, and you've kind of just readjusted, like even like purpose of like the struggles and the good
Yeah.
and the bad.
Yeah, I think that, my purpose as a mom, I think changed. Like I say, I think valuing my children more than I did. I think my relationship with my husband is a lot stronger because we have to be teammates. I mean, he's there when I can't be. I mean, when I fall apart. I mean, and he makes me feel like I'm doing a good job. And that's very important. I think just advocating is a big purpose that I found because it is so hard. And that's what I tell the ladies at therapy. I'm like, if somebody needs help, tell them to call me. I'll try to give them information. I've talked to several moms, about trying to get on Medicaid and things like that. So trying to help other people through this journey I found a lot of purpose in that. And that it's just, you don't know until you're there.
Yeah. I'm sitting here thinking about obviously I'm a new parent, so
Yeah. Congratulations.
thank you. Becoming a parent is hard alone.
Yep.
Like having a child is hard without any complexities involved. The overwhelming nature that it brings to the strain in your relationship, the change of your day, at baseline, having a child is really hard. And I think that it also shows like the man that you picked to spend your life with. And I think stories like this reinstate the importance of choosing the right person to do with, especially if you want to have kids, right? Like none of us are immune to something like this happening. Like this can happen to kind of anyone. And so like choosing a right partner is just so important, like through it all, right?
Oh yeah.
You're a full-time caregiver, right? You're home 100%. And so, and even in that, right? Like having to make that decision to, stop a career or stop like the advancement of your own needs, you're the most selfless thing like that is being done, right? Like your work is your child too.
Yeah, that's what I think in the beginning. I don't think that I realized that it would be, I knew it was going to be a full-time job, but I think it's even more than you realize because like I say, everything you have to plan. I mean, just like if we're going somewhere, I have to plan out, like I say, how is the wheelchair going to get there? Then I have to take food because there's nothing in a restaurant that he can eat because everything has dairy in it. So it's like just those things that are not even just part of the daily. It's just the big picture of, like I say, and this is what I told my husband the other night. I said, I need to write everything down because if something happened to me, I hold all of this.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, they know how to change him and all these things, but just like, they don't know the doctor's names. They don't know how much medication he gets. And I'm like, if something happened to me, so I think that is another purpose that I found was I've got to take care of me because I'm going to be needed for a very long time and I need to be the best version of me physically, mentally, everything because this is in the long haul. I mean, we're in this.
Beyond being a mother, right? Like how do you stay connected to like parts of your identity? Or is that even possible?
I don't really think that it's possible. I mean, this is such a big part of and that's just like, I'll take a walk and the whole time I'm thinking, well, what do I need to do when I get home? We've got to go to the doctor this week. Like I say, did I order everything? And I think that's probably one of the hardest things is trying to navigate just who I used to be. And I told my husband one time, he's like, I wish you were happy like you used to be. And I said,
me too, right?
Yeah. I said, that person died.
Yeah.
That when we got his diagnosis, that person died. And I've had to build up being a new person that is not the same happy person that I used to be. I hide it a lot of times, and that's what, a lot of people don't know that. Mm-hmm. But it is, trying to and those little I feel those little parts of me sometimes. It's like the just laughing with the other kids and things like that and talking to them and telling them stories. And I'm like, oh yeah, I used to be different than I am right now.
Yeah. How do you navigate that? Like, how do you accept that change and like how do you just navigate becoming a new person?
I really don't know, to be honest with you. I'm still figuring that out. I think that like I say, I've felt grief before, but this grief changed me completely. And, I'm very numb to feelings and emotions and things. And so trying just to find my way out, I think it's took me, and I'm starting to feel better and starting to, just like me and my husband started working out together. And it's like, those kind of things of just trying to find the new person and support the new person and figure out who she is.
Yeah.
Because she's different.
Yeah. What do you feel like? Do you think about the future, or do you just spend each day in the present besides thinking about the needs of Jackson and your family?
It's very hard not to. There's certain parts of the future that I think about, and then it's just like I stood there today and I thought, what do we do when he's a grown man and he needs his face shaved and he, hygienic and bathing him and he's changing his diaper and those things. And probably my biggest is when we're not able to do it anymore.
Yeah.
When me and my husband can't physically take care of him anymore, what do we do?
Is that a conversation you have with your husband? Like, do you make those choices now of like what your wants are?
Well, we have talked about it. I mean, we try, like I say, he's more, let's just not think that far ahead. And I'm more, I have to think that far ahead. So I think that we've had the conversation, and my son, Jace, he's my 12-year-old. He told me, he said, I'm going to take him. And he said, I've got to find me a girl that is going to be okay with loving him the way I love him. And I'm like, I raised this kid. And I'm like, he's the way he is because of Jackson. Yeah. That's where you have to find the beauty in and he told me, he said, if she won't love him, then she's out. And I said, okay, you're a good one.
12 years old.
Oh yeah.
I'm going to ask this and I don't want it to come off insensitive, but is there ever a conversation of like, is a facility better for him, for everyone, right? Like, is there even a facility that is possible to take care of someone like him? Like, is that even an option?
I'm sure that it probably is an option. It's not something we would ever consider. I mean, and this is what I say, it sounds bad, but like I say, it could be a lot worse. I mean, he is, like I say, he is alert. He's able to connect with us somewhat. So, I mean, unless, something happened to us and there was no one else, I mean, that would be the only possible way, because he's too special to even, I mean, that's just like, he's old enough to start school. Well, I homeschooled my other children. So it was not even a question. And that's what they're like, well, they'll come and pick him up on the school bus and take him to school and bring him home in the afternoon. And I said, there's no way that I would trust anybody with him that's nonverbal, that he has to have medication. And at the time he would get really choked on food and things. And I'm like, nobody knows that. They don't know to be extra careful when they give him something to drink. And I was like, there's no way I could even begin to put him in the hands of someone else. I mean, that's just not, I mean, my mom will keep him, but we just don't leave him very much unless we absolutely have to.
Yeah. With his diagnosis, is there like a max limit reach from a like mental capacity? Like, is there still opportunity for growth, or is that kind of just unknown as well because there's just such lack of research behind?
It's pretty much what we've got is what we've got.
Okay.
It affects, his genetic condition affects it's the gene on the X chromosome. Mm-hmm. So if he had been a girl, he might not have been affected at all because they have two X's. It depends on which one of their X's is affected. But with him being a boy, we only have one X. So it controls all of the neurological messaging in the brain. And so that's why there's the intellectual disability. They all have the vision problems. They all have trouble eating, gaining weight. Most of them are immobile. Most of them are nonverbal. They're pretty much all in the same category. Some are more severe than others. But pretty much where we are is pretty much the worst thing that can happen is our seizures could get worse.
Yeah.
That's pretty much now there is hope. They're working on a gene therapy right now, which they are trying to get into the human trial phase. And in the trials, they're giving this gene and it's fixing everything. It's a long shot that, that it's going to hopefully come into being a treatment. So there's hope that maybe someday. But the worst thing is they think the younger they are, the better. And so we're like years out from this actually becoming a treatment. So, we don't know if it will come about and what the success will be the older he gets.
Yeah.
We hold that hope that someday maybe there'll be something, but pretty much where he is just physically he's going to get bigger, but mentally we're pretty much where we are.
Why do you feel like you want to share your story, right? Like, I know that you reached out with a purpose and a lot of passion behind it. And why is it so important for you to talk about this?
I think because people don't talk, like, I found it very hard to find people who talk about grief about a person who is still here. I think it's something that nobody can really explain. And like I say, I want people to know that there is joy even in the sorrow. We're not over here just moping around. And I think people think, well, y'all look really put together. This, you look like you're cruising through this. We're not. We're just doing the best that we can. And I think that people so much take for granted the children that they have. And I was sitting in therapy last week with him, and there was this mom, and her little girl kept asking her questions. And she told her, she's like, just get on your tablet and stop asking questions. And I thought, you're sitting across from a mom who would give anything for my child to ask me a million questions. And it's like, people don't think about, when they ask you to play, go play. When they want to talk to you, talk. If they want to dance with you, pick them up and dance. It doesn't matter. That hurts me to my soul when I see people being so harsh with their children. And I'm like, you don't realize what you've got. Because I would give anything for him to just look at me and say, I love you, mama. I mean, and I think that was probably my biggest thing, was just for people to realize that, healthy children are such a blessing. Special children are a blessing. And we make the most of this. That's the only choice we have.
What is it that you would want other parents of medically complex children to know?
That it's okay to feel how you feel. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be doing okay. It's okay to ask for help. That's one big thing that, like, we don't ask for help. Like, I hate to even ask my mom to watch Jackson. And it's like, because I feel, and I told my husband last night, I feel like he's not a burden, so I don't want it to come off like that, but it's my burden. I don't want someone else to have to feel that burden. And I think it's okay to ask somebody to take that from you for an hour or for a night, because it's hard. This is really hard. And it's okay to feel those things, and it's okay to lean on your partner, even if you feel different and have different perspectives. You're in the same boat. You feel you're on the same team, and you've got to work together. And like you say, raise your children to be compassionate towards children who are different. And it's just like Jackson, if you looked at him, you wouldn't know anything was wrong. He doesn't look like he has seizures and looks like he has a complex medical condition. But teach your children to ask questions. Come up and ask me, why does he wear glasses? Why does he ride in that? Why does he wear those shoes? Ask me. I would rather you ask me and teach your children to be curious than they don't understand. They just look and they stare and they point. And just teach them to be compassionate, because we're all struggling in one way or another, and we all need help. And, that's probably the biggest thing, was just to hang in there, and just, you'll get through it.
Is there anything else? I'm going to ask maybe one more question, but is there
Okay.
anything else that you wanted to say, or anything that you missed? And if people wanted to reach out to you, how can they find you too?
I just set up a new email address. It's mistyroberts621@outlook.com. I'm happy if anybody wants just support, just words of encouragement, any of those things. We've got a advocacy group on Facebook, the IQSEC2 Research Foundation. We're raising money for the human trials. If anybody's curious about his genetic condition, there's lots of info on there. We're just on there trying to build a community of families that just have no answers and who are just hoping for the best.
Awesome. And my last question, sorry for it in advance, but
No, it's okay.
if you could have Jackson comprehend something that you want to say to him, what would it be?
This is a hard one. Just how much we love him and how we wouldn't change him. I would change it for him, but I wouldn't change it on my behalf. And that if I could trade places with him, I would trade places with him in a heartbeat. If he can just have one day to be a little boy running around, screaming, playing football, dressed in camo, ready to go hunting, I would do it in a heartbeat, because he is so special. And I tell him every night, I tell him how brave he is and special and strong, and that, we're holding out hope for a miracle, and we may get it one day. But if we don't, he's perfect just the way he is.
Well, thank you so much, Misty, for sharing your story, a story that is so raw, honest, a look into what kind of motherhood few talk about. Your love is constant, but so is your grief, not just of what was lost, but what was never had the chance to be. Through courage, care, and a powerful voice, you remind us that the purpose can be found even in pain that doesn't go away. Thank you again, and thank you all that are listening, and we will see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to For The Hayters. Don't forget to connect with us on socials, follow, like, and share to help more people find this community. And remember, they're not alone. And if you haven't yet, join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you there. The more we grow, the more lives we can impact.
What's your name and share your story? We'll be waiting.